Hey guys, I'm going to be doing another pod test today, and today I have 7 Pot Primo. Pretty small pod. The plant I have this year, it grew very tall and grew very fast, but it's not put out a hell of a lot of pods. The ones I had previously had slightly longer tails on them, but this is the only one I've got ripe at the moment, so I thought I should do a pod test with them. They are apparently on the small side anyway as far as super hots go, but this is perhaps a little bit smaller than usual. Doesn't really mean it's going to be any less hot, because these are meant to be very, very hot. Very hot chilies. So this chili was developed by a guy called, his name was Pot Primo, in Louisiana, and he mixed Naga Morich with 7 Pot, and so this became the 7 Pot Primo. And even looking at it, it's interesting to see the kind of characters of the two coming out. You know, you've got these, it's very bumpy. They can get very spiky and much more gnarly than this one is actually. Which is what I associate with Naga Morich or Dorset Naga, that kind of family. But the view from above looks kind of more in the 7 Pot realm. But yeah, they can have some very cool little curly tails on them. Some of my earlier pods did, but the pods had a bit of rot on them, so I was waiting for new pods to come out. Let's see, I cut this open a little bit earlier, and it smells hot. It smells quite sweet. It does smell very hot, but it does smell quite sweet. A little bit floral, but actually quite fruity at the same time. And that's what the inside looks like. It looks pretty oily on the inside there. Pretty oily. Not huge. The placenta's pretty much wrapped around the whole thing actually. When I cut it open, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the butch tea that I ate last year. Just the initial smell and the initial sight inside, that kind of waxy orange inside. Scovilles on this, I've read such a huge range of reported Scovilles on it. Some sources are saying it's 800 to 1 million. Some places I've read, they're saying, you know, it's up at the 1.4 million mark. Which, you know, is such a broad range of statistics that I don't really know what to believe, but I do know they are meant to be extremely hot. I know this is only very tiny, but I know what I'm in for with this one. I can smell what I'm in for as well. Alright, so try and get the seed cap off. Alright, cheers. Here goes. Wow. What a flavor. Wow. It is really fruity. Also, oh, it's really fruity, but it's also got that kind of floral hint. Whoa. Well, rocket boosters going off in my throat and on the top of my tongue right now. It's got the kind of fruity berryness, like kind of berry-like flavour that I quite liked about ghost chilies. But it's got that kind of, it's got that Trinidad tang in it, that kind of floral punch. And they've got a really amazing flavour actually. I'd say this year I grew a lot of 7-pots, and actually I'm still not sure if I like the 7-pot flavour as much as I like the kind of Nagas and Jolokia. This is kind of married the flavours that I like from both of them actually. Not quite as overwhelming and perfumey as standard 7-pot. It's got that fruitiness to go with it as well. And sweet, it's very sweet. Ooh. And it's still climbing. It's very painful in a very local area of my mouth at the moment, which is where I first bit into it. And it's building. It keeps on building. Aggressive though. That flavour's still evolving. It's almost become like a... I'm getting hints of like raspberry with it. It's very hot. It's staying very local though. It's very much in my gums, my cheek, and one side of my tongue. Starting to get a bit of endorphin rushes off of it. The flavour's strong, it's beautiful, but it's not take your breath away strong like some of the 7-pots I've been eating. I'd say this is probably my favourite 7-pot variety that I've eaten so far. It is very hot. It's very hot, but it's very local, like I said. It's starting to creep down into my throat now though. If I was to guess the heat on it, I'd say this one I've just eaten is closer to the 1,000,000 mark. It's I wouldn't say it's an ultra hot. It's not up at the 1.4, 1.5 million. It's not there. But it is very, very hot. And it's I keep going on about the flavour. This is probably... I want to go ahead and say it's the nicest tasting chili that I've reviewed this year. I know I said the Scotch bonnet was one of my favourites, and it still is, but for different reasons. This is more sweet, and it reminds me of kind of like strawberry, blackcurrant, raspberry, cherry, that kind of, those dark berry-like fruits, along with a few of the characteristics that I do like from the 7-pots. Not to be underestimated. I know that was a small pod, but that's a hell of a lot of heat in one hit. That I think they'd be really nice to make if you're gonna make like a chili fruit jam or something. This would probably be a great choice because it tastes more like a fruit than it does a chili. It smelt very much like a chili when I cut it open. It didn't smell hugely perfume. It didn't smell like potpourri. It smelled a little bit like a butch tea, but I'm quite glad that it doesn't taste anything like a butch tea. Yeah, you can go back and watch the review I did of the butch tea. I wasn't fond of that chili, but I'm quite glad this is different. Sometimes smell can be deceiving, and it's only once you bite into it you really know what it's going to taste like. The heat's starting to die off now. Endorphins are going though. It's really got a really nice kind of like shoulder massage feeling going over my shoulders, and hands are getting a little bit tingly. But wow, what a flavour. And it's ending up almost kind of like tastes almost like a good pastry, or like a good something you'd use in baking anyway. Something maybe like vanilla, or because it's very sweet. That initial fruity punch is gone and it's ended up very sweet, but more floral. So I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna come back in 5 minutes and see what's happened with the heat on it. Cheers. Hey guys, it's been 5 minutes. The heat is pretty warm in my stomach right now, and it's shifted from the side of my mouth and my gums, and it's really burning the top of my mouth and the middle of my tongue right now. Flavour is very strong still. Really beautiful flavour. I kind of stick by it. It's probably the nicest tasting chili that I've tried this year actually. I've not had a huge amount of luck with getting pods on my plant, but that is probably more down to just, you know, the one seed that I decided to keep wasn't the best of stock, or but they grew very fast. It's something I might try growing again because wow, the flavour is great. There's so much stuff you could really incorporate that with. Like I said, making jam, anything sweet and fruity that you want to put heat into. I know I've made kind of fruit spirit infusions before with chilies, and this is definitely one that I would consider using in that, because it's fruity, it's hot, it's really delicious. What a great chili. Yeah, that's been my favourite review to do so far this year actually. So, cheers for watching.